You're listening to Ray Path Productions here on A1R Psychic Radio and Moonstruck TV. I am your host, Chloe Folan, clairvoyant. And the reason why I'm smiling is we're actually starting on a rather humorous note for this show, which is wonderful. And it's definitely reminding me that where possible, not to take life too seriously. We've had a bit of a humorous occurrence, and once again, thank you to my producer Dave for being so on the ball. About half an hour before my show, I get a message on Skype going, Chloe, it might be an hour earlier than you think. Can you double check your time zone, please? And sure enough, here in Ireland, our clocks did change time. But for some reason, silly me thought that it would be the same in the US. And of course, it was not. So you have never seen an 8-month pregnant woman move so fast in her entire life to get ready. So definitely we're starting on a much lighter note, and it's been wonderful to get the reminder that where possible, not to take life seriously where you don't have to, which actually brings me to the topic I actually wanted to discuss before taking two wonderful callers here this evening to see if I can be of aid and of service in helping to read for their queries. Prior to the time zone scare, I got today, I was in a bit more of a serious mood because, as some people might be aware, we are coming up to the celebration of Samhain. Some people pronounce the holiday Samhain. Some people pronounce the holiday Sivan. Some people have a different name entirely. Winter Harvest Festival, some people call it. And quite simply, what Samhain marks is coming into the darker half of the year. But like that, for some reason around this holiday, and there would be one or two other celebrations and holidays this does happen around, sometimes people get very touchy, and they get touchy about what the holiday should be called, how you should celebrate, what's right or wrong. And like that, with the humorous occurrence with my time zone mix-ups, it's reminded me to definitely not allow things like that to take away from how you wish to celebrate or finding what's authentic for you. Because I myself would have a very eclectic path, which means I am a non-traditionalist, while at the same time respecting tradition and respecting origin points. I wouldn't be a traditionalist myself. So I always find it quite strange when people do utilize their time to argue over what the correct date may or may not be, to argue over how the holiday or the celebration should be marked, like that some traditions will celebrate on October the 31st, I do myself, or some people will start their celebrations on October the 31st and lead the celebrations and the rituals right through until the 6th of November. Some people won't celebrate until the 6th of November if they're more aligned with the astronomical year, if that's the way they time their ceremonies and how they celebrate and just what's authentic for them. But I always like to remind people that why it's very important to obviously get facts right. At the same time, diversity stops us getting stagnant. And once again, to remind ourselves that at the end of the day, of course, there's going to be diversity in how one celebrates, and to really remind ourselves that diversity prevents things getting stagnant. Diversity teaches us to respect other paths and other takes on things and other points of view, and why it's always important to work out what is authentic for you. To remember that when you've found what's authentic for you, to remember that it just might be as authentic for someone else to do something different, or what you might not consider traditional or correct. And I always like to remind people that do tend to get very upset or take offense at other people celebrating at times that they don't think are right, or that they don't think is correct. That, look, if someone has come across a tradition and it speaks to them, and it speaks to them so much that they just want a tiny piece of that tradition to include in their own lives in a way that's authentic for them, well, you've done a great service. Even if it's not traditional or not what you would do, I honestly think that imitation is one of the highest forms of flattery, is it not? So if someone finds something in a tradition that they think is healthy and they think is good and they would like to emulate that, even if it's in a different way, well, is that not the whole point in spreading awareness, in spreading tolerance? And once again, reminding ourselves that, diversity will always keep the world turning. Diversity, keeps us all healthy. Diversity offers other food for thought and other things to consider. So definitely on that note, and I'm glad to have gotten the humorous start to the show, however you celebrate or however you name the celebration or holiday, I do wish you a happy Winter Harvest Festival, however you celebrate. Coming to that, what does seem to be a common theme is that, and this is also where we get into the area of people sometimes getting a bit upset about things that really, at the end of the day, is that much of a big deal, where sometimes people won't celebrate on October the 31st because they like to draw a difference between Samhain and the more commercial Halloween. But like that, whether you want to celebrate Halloween, whether you want to celebrate Samhain, whether you want to celebrate Savan, however you celebrate, blessings to you. And I would definitely be someone who loves to hear about how different people celebrate, what you do and why that speaks to you. So however you celebrate, and no matter what date, I hope you enjoy it and I hope it's thoroughly soul nourishing for you. At its core, Samhain would be about marking, like I said, the start of the darker months starting, the darker time of the year starting. And because of that, personally, I like to suggest to people to use it as a time of year to really reflect and actually utilize the time to form a little eclectic, diverse ceremony for reflecting what you would like to heal or let go of. So to really sit down and think about everything that's happened to you throughout the year, everything that's occurred to you throughout the year, and see if you can find a common theme for what you would like to offer up for healing. And at the same time, this would also be a time of year where people do like to honor those who have gone before. Because even though through healing, through self-awareness, and through many ways that you can become wiser about yourself and about your actions and about your life, we all are influenced by our DNA, by the tribe we come from, by the family unit we come from. So people like to take this time of year to honor those ancestral ties because they are always there. Even if you change or change your beliefs or change where you live, I do believe that biologically, a lot of impulses are a lot stronger than what people give them credit for. And why I do believe you always have the power to change. Your ancestral line does stay the same. And I do think it's quite healthy to take time out to reconnect with your core culture, to reconnect with genetically where you come from, to maybe do a bit of research into what the culture is all about that you came from, even if you don't have a piece in that culture or find that you connect very well with that culture. It's very, very healing to discover one's lineage, where one, came from ancestrally, to explore what your ancestors or the tribe you came from would have done, how they lived, what their beliefs were. It's all very interesting. So definitely, however you celebrate, do see if you can include in how you celebrate a little ceremony around reflecting on what you need to heal, a common theme that might have arisen. And then also to maybe offer up a prayer to those that have gone before, that your life continues to be guided in a healthy way. and maybe also do a bit of research into your lineage and maybe have a look into who you're related to genetically, how they, lived their lives, what their beliefs were. It's incredibly interesting, and I do believe very personality and soul nourishing to take time out to do that. So, however you celebrate, happy Winter Harvest Festival, and may it be a nourishing, reflective, and healing one for you. And where possible, don't take life too seriously. Always try to find that, point in your life where if you do find yourself getting very serious, ask yourself if it's going to matter tomorrow, or ask yourself if what you're looking at even needs to be taken that seriously, or if it's, just have humor and allow humor in where humor can get in, and where you don't have to take life seriously, don't. Sometimes it's just not worth getting serious over certain things. It just won't matter tomorrow, as the saying goes. On that note, we have a lovely lady, Kimberly from California in USA. Kimberly, can you hear me?
I can.
Kimberly, how may I be of service to you? Do you have a query you would like me to tap into, to read for you, to offer guidance on?
Yes, I am actually in the process of fighting some court stuff, and I'm just curious to what the future holds for me.
Okay, so you're in the middle of a court case and would like to know a little bit about the outcome and what's happening.
Yes.
Perfect, Kimberly. Give me a few moments to tap into your query clairvoyantly, and I also will draw some tarot cards. 2 moments, please. I'm just drawing some cards as well, because now this is interesting. I do believe overall it will be okay. But the biggest issue I'm seeing is I do think this court case will drag out a little bit longer than what's expected. So really, in one way, what I'm seeing is there will be a healthy outcome to this. But at the same time, I think the biggest issue is going to be how drawn out this issue gets. So unfortunately, I'm not seeing a very quick conclusion to what's happening. But at the same time,
Okay.
it still does come about that it does end up being healthy. What I will ask, Kimberly, is that as part of this court case, do you have to sign some documents next month to keep this court case moving? Because the one thing I will say is, before you do sign anything, if there's anything you don't understand, do get it double checked. Don't feel pressure to sign anything that you're not too sure of. So is there some papers that you do have to sign for this next month?
No.
Not so far.
Not so far.
Be on the lookout for that in November, if you do have to sign anything legal as part of this court case, if there's something you don't understand, don't feel silly over going, look, what does that mean? Or getting it double checked. The only other issue I'm seeing is how there's just going to be longevity here with this. I am seeing this last for at least another 4 months. Have you been given a date for when this might be over with?
No, I have not.
I do think this will take another 4 months. So that's the other issue I'm seeing. So I'm not seeing that it won't be a healthy outcome. I do have the Ace of Swords card here as the likely outcome card. That's why I keep saying this will be a healthy outcome. Ace of Swords relates to having the bulk of the difficulties behind you and a fresh start, and not a fresh start where it's hurtful, painful, The other interesting side of this is it's not looking like this is going to be hugely draining financially on you either, because I'm not seeing a lot of, I actually have no pentacle cards here. And pentacles do relate to, if I have a lot of court cards come up with pentacle cards along with other cards, that indicates what money's involved as well as, timing for the outcome. So really 4 months. In November, if you need to sign anything, make sure you understand it before you sign it. This probably will drag out for 4 months, but it will have a healthy outcome. And I'm not seeing this financially drain you. I'm not saying there isn't money involved in a court case. Of course there is, but I'm not seeing this be draining on you financially either. So I hope that has provided some solace.
Oh, yes, it has.
Are there any other areas you want me to look into for the court case, or has that provided you with the answers you need?
No, I think that's good on the court case. I think that helped me out a lot.
Like that money's involved, but it will not be financially draining on you. Okay. This is not going to be financially draining on you. It's a healthy outcome. It's a positive one, and one that does not financially wipe you out or cause financial duress and stress.
That is wonderful.
Perfect, Kimberly. I'm glad I could be of assistance. If you did want to contact me again in the future, please do so through my website, www.chloefolan.com. I'm glad I could help you. It was a pleasure connecting with you, and have a very good evening.
You too. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye. We have Jules in Manchester in the United Kingdom. Jules, can you hear me? No problem. We're just going to give Jules a moment there or two. I think the line's gone a bit funny, so we'll just give Jules a few moments to see if we can get Jules back. So like that, just coming back to the upcoming Samhain celebration, like that, I offered a few pieces of advice on how you can celebrate in a very ceremonial way, meaning ceremony is far more spontaneous, ceremony is far more eclectic. It gives a little more room for individual inspiration. So like that, you can think about what needs to heal for you. And like that, I always share with other people, I'm quite open about it. I celebrate on October the 31st. Like that, even though some people don't, because they like to draw a difference between Halloween and Samhain, I've always celebrated on October the 31st, and I've either called it Samhain or Savan, because Savan was the pronunciation I was taught. So like that, definitely enter into looking to see, reflecting on the wheel of the year, coming into the darker months. Like I said before in some of my previous shows, we're now coming into a time of year where it's not really a doing time of year. It's more of a reflective time of year for where you should be pulling your energies back, taking stock of all that's happened, looking at what you can learn from, looking at what's happened to you throughout the year, looking to see what occurrences you've grown from, what learnings you've had, how you've grown, what you know now that you didn't know last year. Really take stock of everything that you've learned. Really take stock of whether there's a common theme for where you can do some healing like that. Did you notice you worried a lot? Did you notice you got very overwhelmed a lot? Was that a common theme? Or did you notice that you tended to maybe be a little bit distrustful? Did distrust come up a lot for you? And that's something you can offer up for healing, but by just simply writing it down, holding the piece of paper, feeling those reoccurring issues that you experienced throughout the year coming up, feeling all those sorrows and woes being poured into the paper. And when you feel that you've detoxed through that common theme reoccurring throughout the year, just safely and responsibly then burn the paper or rip it up and throw it in the bin. And you can always add in just a lovely prayer where you can say, Spirit, take this sorrow and this woe and transform it into a healthy glow. It's a nice mantra you can say as you practice the gentle purging part of your ceremony. And then another lovely thing to do is to definitely sit back and have a look at all you've learned, the biggest lessons you've had, how that's changed you, the good that you can take. And then if you want to, you can sit down and write a letter, literally write a letter, obviously one that you're not going to post, but sit down and write a letter to your ancestors, meaning if you've got Greek heritage, take a few moments to sit down and write to the ancestors of your Greek heritage, or maybe pull out a book on Greek culture and read up on that. Or like that if you're of Italian descent, have a look, into a little more into your Italian background and what traditions that you had, or how your people celebrated in different ways, or what was a part of your culture, what were key components of your culture, or no matter where in the world you're from. That's what I mean by ancestors, meaning those that have gone before that make you genetically who you are now. Because I'll say it again, I sometimes do think that people take biology for granted over how much that does influence us, even if we weren't raised in that traditional culture. Meaning, if you're of Asian descent and you were born into a Western culture, meaning your parents traveled over from their country of origin in Asia, and you were born and raised in either England or in the USA, and really apart from the odd thing you might have witnessed your parents do, not really have ever connected in with your biological culture, to really take some time to have a look to see how that could be influencing you, or some pieces of your biology that maybe are a strength that you didn't realize you had. So it's really, really healing time to have a look into, no matter what racial culture you come from, having a look at what evolved that culture you come from, especially if you don't know that much about it, how they celebrated, how they lived, how they marked their holidays, what they did. So definitely take some time out to connect in with that, because that can be incredibly healing, and you might be surprised over what you might find. On that note, we have Melissa from Australia. Melissa, can you hear me?
I can. Hello.
Hi, Melissa. How can I help you? Do you have a query you would like to run past me for a reading?
I was just wondering about love.
Perfect, Melissa. And do you mean in context of what's going to happen for you in your love life, or can you be a little more direct with your query, please?
I I was just wondering what's going to happen generally in my love life, but I've actually come in contact with a good friend of mine that I was previously involved with, and I was just wondering if you could see what's going to happen there with us.
Okay, no problem, Melissa. 2 moments. Let me tap into you clairvoyantly, and I'm going to draw some tarot cards as well. 2 moments, please. Okay, definitely to start out with, Melissa, everything does seem to be all right for the immediate future, but definitely down the line, and I'm talking more about next year and early next year, it could cause a little bit of friction. And where I'm seeing this might cause some friction in love life is where there can be a bit of conflict of interest. So this is where I would say, never make a decision based on an assumption. So when it comes to how love life will be influenced, I'll say it again loud and clear. Make sure you're not making decisions based on assumptions, meaning don't presume things and make a decision on a presumption. make sure that you are making decisions based on fact, because I am seeing that early next year, some friction could be caused because of assumptions. So what I mean by that is I'm seeing there could be avoidable conflict here. So definitely this is about not looking before you leap. And like that, sometimes we can sense intuitively that a problem could arise, and that gets our back up. And then when things start getting a bit tense, we nearly get just as wound up, and we're like, oh my goodness, I thought this was going to happen, and we get on guard, and then things can get more filled with friction than need be. So what I'm saying is, I'm seeing that coming into next year, there is avoidable friction. And the friction is avoidable by not allowing paranoia to creep in and not allowing assumptions to cause you to make your decisions, because it is avoidable ones where it always causes growth. When we come back into contact with people from the past, it really is a good marker for us to see, how have I changed? How have my values changed? Maybe there's values that I did have that I forgot about that I want to reintroduce into my life. And you're going to be able to do all of that without it causing huge conflict if things are discussed properly. So there needs to be open communication. There needs to be honest talking next year, and just really keeping the flow of things in terms of talking, not shutting down, not assuming, not getting paranoid, and it will actually be smooth enough. So as long as things stay calm, cool, and collected, I'm seeing avoidable conflict here. Am I making sense?
Wonderful. Yes, totally. I totally understand.
So while you still will go through some personal changes with reassessing your values, there is no need for deeper issues here to arise. Just talking, discussing, keeping things open, and not making decisions based on assumptions.
Yes, wonderful. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome, Melissa. You're very welcome. It was a pleasure connecting with you. If you do want to connect with me again, please do so through my website, www.chloefolan.com. It was a pleasure, and I'm glad I could assist you. Have a lovely day.
Thank you very much. You too.
Take care. See you, Melissa. We only have a few seconds left, and like that, I would just like to reiterate to my Irish listeners, apologies that the show was an hour earlier than expected. But I'll say it again, it was lovely to start the show on a more humorous note. And like that as well, I have posted, but just also to mention it again, this is actually my last show before maternity leave. I fully intend to rejoin this fabulous network here on A1R Psychic Radio on Moonstruck TV when my maternity leave is over. So please do keep an eye out. I will be posting about when I'm returning, and I look forward to returning, but this is actually my last show before maternity leave. So I would like to thank Dave for not allowing me to miss it with time so different.